I'm Director of Energy Consulting with Seventh Wave. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I was in the design world for about 4 to 5 years before joining Seventh Wave. And I came over to Seventh Wave because I wanted to make an impact on a larger set of buildings. As a designer, you get a really good impact on 1 or 2 buildings. But I think for me and for my career goals, I really want to see how can we make a much broader impact. And Seventh Wave, we get to do that on a lot of projects. This presentation is kind of a intersection in a 3 to 4 year journey with these co-authors too. We've worked really closely with NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, over the last 4 years, ever since we got engaged with this project. We were working with University of Chicago on their campus planning, and they were looking at this broader context of their campus and how, when you bring a new building online, how does that fit in relation to all these existing buildings that are out there. And internally, that university decided that, hey, we needed some way to put a cap on the maximum amount of energy use that a building might use. And as they developed this process, we learned that NREL had actually done it on several of their buildings. I know NREL has given a lot of presentations at ACEEE on this topic before, but it really laid the framework for how the university could apply this. So I got to know Paul Torsellini with NREL. I got to know Shante Pless and also Jennifer Scheib. So they are co-authors on this paper. And really working with them a lot on the tools, the process, and how can it fold into this larger thing that we're trying to create. By the way, I started on this project 4 years ago, and it's actually this week while we're in Silomar, students are going into that building. So we're going to find out how it performs. So that's pretty exciting too. Yeah, so as far as my paper and my presentation, Sandra Henry is also doing a presentation at ACEEE, and we kind of divided this up 2 ways. So Accelerate Performance, which I'll touch on in a minute, is really focused on how utilities can grow new programs, but then also how do building owners, how do they respond to performance requirements in their buildings. So Sandra's kind of covering a lot of the utility side of it. My focus is on the building owners. So this University of Chicago story is appropriate for what this is going to cover. So Accelerate Performance, very, very simply stated, what we're doing is we talk to a building owner. We basically ask them, look, you're going to build this new building, and everyone's really excited to build it. And related to energy performance, it's pretty simply, do you want this building to perform worse than your other buildings that you have on your campus or in your portfolio, the same, or better? And I think what's been a little surprising but also a little bit expected is that about all owners will say, well, it should perform better. My building is not 20 years old like my other ones. We've been trying to make those better. We've got new technologies, all this better design techniques. We want it to be better. But then we ask them what that means in terms of what we call energy use intensity, or a maximum energy level, and there's really no definition around that in the industry. And so what we're doing with building owners, like, look, you want this goal, you want it to be better than your existing ones, but how do we actually ask a team for that? And a lot of owners that build a lot of buildings and a lot of developers have seen that. They have invested in technologies, and then this building comes online and they may not see that the performance is where they expected it to be. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. And what's a little bit surprising, or what's a little interesting for us, is it's not really that the design team made an error. It's not even that the construction team made an error or that the owner made an error. It's just that we, as an industry, haven't made energy so clear and so tangible as all the other goals on a project. You have a budget for a project, you don't want to exceed it, right? We say we want LEED certification, but that doesn't tell us, like, where do I want my energy to perform? If you have a house and you pay a bill, you might want your house to perform at a certain level. And so what we can do through this approach, pretty simply, is just make it a number. I want my building to be at or below, a whole building EUI of 55. And then that is the core of the whole process. And so behind all that, behind the DOE tools and behind this process, is how do we document this in a way that design teams can understand it, construction teams can understand it, they can come together and make it a goal that everyone agrees to up front and moves forward. So within my paper and in my presentation, I kind of outline this process. So that I mentioned one of the reasons why owners might be motivated. There's a list of about 7 or 8 different reasons I think that are pretty powerful, and usually about half of those resonate with owners. So there's a lot of good reasons to do that. So we talk about what those motivations are. And because this project, it's a 3-year project. We're in our first year. We're just getting these pilots underway. So what the paper really discusses is very early on. It's not going to tell you, well, then what's the energy use they actually got when they finished, because we don't have those results quite yet. But we've learned a lot from the interviews with the owners, the interactions with the design teams, and we've learned a lot about what not only is driving the owner after they've set this goal and what their fears are, what their concerns are, what the positive benefits are. We also have the same experiences from the design teams, and we actually see them evolve from what is this thing, I don't quite understand it, to wow, we're actually really good at this, and this can make our team very competitive in the market if we can deliver it. So my paper will touch on that journey a little bit, some direct feedback that we've gotten from them. The industry is ready for this. Even though there's some hesitation about something new, everything is lining up for this idea that when we build a building, we really need to talk about where do we want the performance to actually be. I've been in the industry for quite a while, and energy modeling versus relative baselines versus this, you're comparing things that never get built. It's all intangible, and it's just going to get cast to the side. So whenever we do set a goal and we actually go back and measure it, the amount of education that will happen in the market will be more valuable than even setting the goal to begin with. So when you go out to buy a new car, and everyone's been through that experience, you go out to the lot and you kind of drive some stuff, and then you do this awful negotiation process with the dealer. Well, a key process of ACEEE Performance is that what we want to do is we all want everything to do with a car or a building, but we can't afford it. We know we can't afford it, but we want to at least see if we can get it. So we can either ask for everything and then get it all shot down, or what was clever about what NRL and DOE did was they said, well, we want 3 tiers. We got a mission critical goal, like I got to have this for the building. Then we got this highly desirable, like I don't know if I can afford it, but if you can squeeze this in my budget, then I'll take it, and this is what I want, and then if possible, this is the dream list. I want net zero. And what we do is we put energy into every tier there. So net zero is maybe on the bottom, the if possible. You said like a safe, if I can get this good solid number, that will be good enough for me, but highly desirable, I'd really like something that's 20% better than that, or it's 10% better than all the buildings out there that are like that. If you wait till after you've signed the contract or after you've made the agreement, and you ask for more scope or you ask for more work, it's only going to result in more money. So the only way to negotiate with a car salesman is to be very definitive about what you want and see what you can get in for your best price. So if we can do that with our buildings and we can talk about that early, so everyone's clear what the scope is and everyone's clear what we want, then you actually allow the design and construction team to come back to you and say, look, we understand what you want, and these things we can do, but these things are going to cost you more money. So do you want them or not, or what do we need to do, what trade-offs do we need to make up front so we don't defer that decision down the road. And buildings are obviously more complicated than cars, and I certainly understand that, and the design process is very intricate and complex, but there's a framing there, there's a lesson learned there. It's in negotiation, it's in behavioral, it's in just kind of getting, just taking the time up front, do a little more planning to understand what you want and know how to ask for it. And what we can provide through ACEEE Performance and what we can provide through these utility programs is to sit down with the owner and make those lists, understand what their options are, and then actually walk into the buying experience of the building knowing what you want.